Good afternoon and welcome to the May 11th, 2023 meeting of the Rotary Club of somewhere in Orlando. I'd like to extend a special welcome to all of our visiting Rotarians and guests. Please know you're very welcome to be here. We're glad that you could join our meeting today. I'd also like to remind everyone, if you haven't already, please silence your cell phones so you don't have them going off during the meeting. Now, please help me start the meeting with an invocation from past President Jim Stowers.
Pray with me, please. Today, as we meet in Rotary Fellowship, we cannot help but be reminded of our innumerable blessings which all too often we take for granted when we do little to deserve them. We are especially thankful for living in this great land, for the many opportunities available to each of us, among them being privileged to belong to Rotary. May this food give strength to our bodies in order that we may serve better. We ask you to give us willing hearts to live up to our motto, service above self. We pray in your holy name. Amen. Thank you.
Thank you, Jim. Now, patriotic music from past President, Attorney Heidi Eisenhart.
Okay, we're gonna do the usual. America's beautiful, everybody. Let's hear it. Oh, beautiful for spacious skies, for amber waves of grain, for purple mountain majesties above the fruited plain. America, America, God shed his grace on thee and crown thy good with brotherhood from sea to shining sea. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Thank you, Heidi. Great job as always. Now for the recognition of our guests and visiting Rotarians, past President Mary Ann Dean.
Thank you, sir. And I'd also like to welcome any guests and visitors that we have today. We're so glad to have you with us. Our first one is Bill Corio. Bill, welcome back. It's been a long time since we've seen you. Would you please stand and remain standing, please? There, he's over in the side. He's waving. We have two more guests. I'll also ask you if you would please stand. Bob Whitcomb, a guest of Denny Career. Bob, welcome. Glad to have you back. Nope, not yet. Got to stand. We have a very special welcome for you when we're through, so got to wait. We also have, is it Tim Rich? Rick, glad to have you with us. Also a guest of Denny Career, so glad to have you with us as well. And how do we welcome our guests and visitors?
Hello, stranger, gather round. Welcome to our friendly town. Don't feel lonesome, let's shake hands. You're among Rotarians.
Sit down.
All right. Thank you, Mary Ann. Now, one of the great things of a club that's growing is when new members come in and we do a classification talk. Can everyone hear me okay? All right, thank you. So now to do a classification talk today is new member Kelly Roth. Kelly, come on up.
Okay. Hi, everybody. My name is Kelly Roth. I am a residential real estate goddess. I came here to Florida in 1985. I moved to Gainesville, Florida, and then was back and forth between here, Orlando, and Gainesville. I got into real estate 14 years ago and pretty much knew nothing about nothing coming out of real estate school. And I got connected with a real estate investor, and he had me show him a house. And unbeknownst to me, this was back in 2010. And he had already made entry into the house. I won't say that he broke in. I'll just say that he made entry because these were the REO times when there were thousands of houses available. And so long story short, he asked me what I thought the house was worth. And I told him a number, the ARV, the average retail value. And he's like, I'm going to buy it cash. And I'm like, oh, Mr. Young, listen, I need to go back to the office and double check my numbers on this. And he's like, oh my God, an honest real estate agent from New York City. And I'm like, well, I'm not from New York City. I'm from Westchester. But he's like, I'm going to take you under my wing. So long story short, he would teach me what a house was built of because I didn't know. And he would tell me what a 10 penny nail would, how to figure out if the house had termites. And over the years, I have learned so much about real estate and investing. And that's what my passion is. That's what I love to do. I love people and I love working with clients. And so when I came to Rotary here, Candace Griffin was the one who's like, you need to come to Rotary. There's all kinds of awesome people there. I'm like, yeah, but I got to get up early to do it. I have so enjoyed meeting everyone here and being a part of it. And one of the greatest experiences I had was at the book fair with being with the little first graders over there and them coming in and just loving on my mother and myself. So this has just been a wonderful experience, and I will be attending meetings and harassing all of you. So thank you.
All right, thank you, Kelly. Now, a little bit of business I need to talk about. As some of you heard, I'm sure most of you have heard, we're going to need a new location for our meetings. We got word this week that Ace Cafe, the building here, has been sold, and it's only going to be available till the end of this month. And at the end of this month, no more meetings here. So a committee's been formed, search committee. Incoming President Chris Whitney and I talked along with other members of the board, and President-elect nominee Dan Bone volunteered to head the search committee. He's already had several people volunteer to help him. But if anyone here in the club knows of some place that would be a suitable location for our club to meet, if you would come forward and either approach Chris or myself or Dan, or actually any one of the board members, just discuss it with him. And we've got some requirements. We're trying to find a location that's got surface parking, which is not the easiest thing in downtown Orlando. We want to be in downtown. That's one thing. There's limits as to how far we can drive. We'd like the surface parking. We'd also like to, obviously you have to have accommodations for around 50 people, which is our average attendance, so the possibility of getting bigger and growing. And there's a few other requirements, and the main limitation is, from what we've been seeing, is going to be the cost. We want to try to keep the cost in the same range as where we are right now. So again, if you have any questions about that or anything that you'd like to bring forward to the committee, we welcome any kind of participation. So thanks very much for that. Now, I would like to get some good news up here. Past President John Stein is John, here we are. John is going to come up and give us some good news about our golf tournament.
it would only be appropriate for a past president to talk about a past golf event. So the good news, it appears that we have easily cleared $22,000 for the event, which will be going. So, now, a lot of people did a lot of work before, during, and after. Believe it or not, there's a lot of work after it too. So, but I want to say a special thank you to everybody that helped, the volunteers, and I want to thank the players. And we had a lot of Rotary, Orlando Rotary Rotarians playing in the tournament. Y'all really helped make a backbone for that tournament. And while I don't see Britt here today, but Britt was responsible for rallying Rotarians all around, and Rich as well. So I can't express my thanks to all of you as much as I'd like to, but thank you for support and everything to make this a successful event. And I'm tired, but I'm happy. So thank you very much for all your support. Good.
Well, as John said, that the tournament was successful, and it was the result of a lot of work from a lot of people. I was really impressed by how many people stepped up to the plate and donated their time, talent, and treasure, as they say. A lot of people paid money to be in that tournament, and I was there working. I'm not a golfer myself, but I was there working, and it looked to me like everybody there was having a great time. So as a matter of fact, after the tournament was over, we had the people at Disney come up to us and say that that was the smoothest run tournament that they've had at their facility, and they welcomed us to come back, which is, that's something you don't hear very often on the first time attempt. So, that was our first attempt at Disney there, and I said, it might not have gone perfectly, but of the million things that could have gone wrong, didn't. And I think overall we all should be very pleased with the outcome and pat ourselves in the back. It's been a good year. So now we got the next challenge is moving forward, finding ourselves a new place to meet. So I'm sure we'll get through that and end up with a very good new chapter of this club. Moving forward, as everyone got their raffle tickets in, they're still for sale if you haven't bought your raffle ticket yet. And remember the Wednesday edition. We are putting videos of last week's speaker on the Wednesday edition. So if you do miss a meeting, you can click on the Wednesday edition and see the video portion of the speaker's portion, I should say, of the video. And really worth going to visiting those. So let's now go forward with Happy Dollars. Ollie.
All right, who's got some money for us over here? Denny?
I've got 3 happy dollars, one for the guests that are here from 1 Million Cups. That's become a prime recruiting ground for us. Our speaker today also is from 1 Million Cups. Eric actually is in charge. And I'm also very proud of the fact that the Lake Mary lacrosse team that I spent 26 hard-earned years with as a coach, as PA announcer and everything else, won the state championship this past week. They went 24-0, maybe the best team ever in the state of Florida. They won the semifinal game by 10 and the championship game by 8. They were awesome.
Thank you, Denny. I've got a dollar for our club's songbird, Heidi Eisenhart. Always enjoy when you do the music. Thank you, Heidi.
Happy dollar to see all my good friends.
Awesome. Welcome back, Bill.
Some of you will remember my son, Chris Stowers, who was in this club for a number of years. He's now up in the Panhandle. But I'm putting in 5 happy dollars because last Friday, right after the Rotary meeting, we left to go up to Gainesville because his oldest daughter, Megan, graduated in engineering and went 4 years cum laude. So we were very happy for her. Megan Stowers.
Absolutely. Congratulations, Poppy. Rich, you do a great job on posting all the videos of the speakers. Appreciate it.
I have $5. I just wanted to not let Erin get away without being acknowledged because her name wasn't called as being a visitor. So Erin, welcome. And also my friend Bill, thank you. Welcome back. I am I took an Uber to come here today. My car's not in the parking lot because after I'm done here, I'm taking an Uber to the airport because I have to go to South Carolina. So I figured it was cheaper to take Uber here and then Uber over there. So anyway, that's it. I'm not going on a cruise. I'm just going to pick up my wife in South Carolina.
All right. Dr. Dick.
Hey, I have $5 happy dollars. The first is to announce that tomorrow we have another district food packing event at Second Harvest. So far, I've only got 15 people signed up and we really need 20 more than that. So if you're available tomorrow afternoon, come on out because we need the help.
Thank you, sir. Bill, thank you for your $1. How's that book that you wrote with Bob Ford selling?
1,382nd on the list.
Yeah, I saw there was like 306 copies on Amazon that were available, new or used, for 1 cent. And I said, do I really want to pay that?
I've got $5 happy dollars for John Stein. All the hard work he did. This thing really came off smoothly thanks to a lot of work by his leadership.
All right. I'll work my way around, George. Jerry?
Got $1. I missed last Thursday. My excuse is I was going to North Georgia to my aunt's 100th birthday party. Long way to go to a party, but it was worth it.
That's what I call a happy dollar. Do you have a rebuttal?
No, I don't. I just wanted to tell Kelly, what a great classification talk. That was lovely. Welcome.
Yes. Be brief, be gone. Very good. Oops, cut through here. Oh, excuse me.
This is just kudos for the golf tournament committee. It was absolutely fabulous. I cannot believe that was the first time. Really well run. Great event. Thanks so much.
George?
Yes, the golf tournament was a success. Thanks to John Stein, who chaired the committee. Thanks to Rich Ungaro, Bill Pieper, Britt Lovett, and Rhoda Carter. I want to, okay.
All right. John, yes, well done.
I appreciate everything that everybody did in making that golf tournament a success. And thank you for naming the committee because that was important. That's where it started, but it finished with a whole lot of people coming out and doing a lot. And I want to say one more thing. Roger Tolke and Francis Lovett and Sarah Carlson were at the registration desk and they were crushed. And we lost one of our credit card readers and it wouldn't work. So they did it. And believe it or not, they did it so very well. But everybody pitched in and made it a true success. Thank you.
Awesome. All right. Did we have anybody? I know I skipped this table. Anybody over here? Okay. How about over here? All righty. Yes, sir.
Well, there's $1, a John Stein dollar. He's like the hardest working man in Rotary. And then we've got $1 for Ace Cafe, not because I'm happy that we're leaving. I know it's called a happy dollar, but I just like Ace Cafe. I like it a whole lot better than the soror. What was that? The Sororist Club. All right.
All right. Shout out to Ace Cafe. Hey, Tommy. Okay, I'm coming back. Tommy, you know what Oscar Wilde says? It's your duty to get married. You can't always be living for pleasure. I'll tell you about marriage. It's like the witness protection program. You get all new clothes, you live in the suburbs, and you're not allowed to see your friends anymore.
I'm happy. I got a $2 bill because I like to hand these out every day to be standing out. And here I am standing out. Now, one is for understanding what happy dollars are. 2 is that I'm $3 happy dollars short of getting another lottery ticket. So I'm hoping that this is the winner.
All right. Anybody else? Okay, thank you very much.
All right, Ollie, thanks very much. Good job again. And while I get my camera adjusted in. Now it's time for our speaker this week. And I think we're going to have a great speaker today because we have the pleasure of having an author here. Eric Deckers, his talk today is going to be about humor and literature. And when we asked him for his bio, he said, well, here's some advice on writing copy. And said, you should have 3 questions. Who am I writing for? But who's the audience? And why should they care? Which is their benefit. And why do I want them here? So that's your call to action. So he's already started out giving us some great advice on writing. Hopefully we'll get some more. So without any further ado, please help me welcome Eric Deckers. Thanks, Eric.
What's especially sad is I don't remember sending that. So anyway, thank you for having me. Thank you to Denny for inviting me. He's asked me several times and finally wore me down, and I came and had a good time a few weeks ago and talked to Rich and said, hey, could I speak at this? And he said, sure, what do you want to talk about? I said, well, I'm a humor writer, so I could talk about that. And so basically, I have been a newspaper humor columnist. I just did the math 2 weeks ago, was 28 years. I have written a weekly newspaper humor column for 7 papers up in Indiana, where I'm from. Where's the clicker? Ah, here it is. And it's all started in the tiny town of Wakarusa Tribune, or well, Wakarusa, Indiana. Tribune is not a state, but Wakarusa, Indiana. And I met the editor at an event for the Kosciuszko County Democrats, of which there were 12 of us, because Kosciuszko County, Indiana is a very Republican district. And I met the editor and the owner of the paper, and I said, hey, are you interested in publishing a humor column? Which I had written 2 humor essays before, ever. And he said, sure, send me what you got. And so I sent him what I had, and he called and said, hey, come to the office. And so I came to the office and we met, we had lunch, and he asked me about my extensive humor writing experience. He said, are you a Democrat? I said, well, yeah, that's how we met. He said, great, you're in. So apparently that's all it takes to become a newspaper columnist, is you have to have an in with the editor. But that's how I got in. And so for 28 years, I've written for this paper, and then I have self-syndicated to other papers in Indiana. I've also written a few books. I wrote a book on social media marketing with a bad word in the title. And one of my proudest days ever was when somebody sent me a photo of this at Barnes & Noble, right at the eye level of an impressionable 6-year-old. And I showed it to my mom. It was not her proudest day. She was proud of the book. She was not proud of the name on the book. We actually had to ask Barnes & Noble, could we put the word in the book? And they said, are you kidding? We love that. We'll even put it out on the shelves where everyone can see it. And so they did. I'm also the president of the Kerouac House, which is here in College Park, just right over there a little bit. It's where Jack Kerouac lived when he wrote On the Road, and when On the Road was published, and where he wrote On the Road, or Dharma Bums, in 1957 and 58. And then I was a writer in residence there, and I worked on my first ever humor novel, Mackinac Island Nation, and that we just republished with a new publisher this year. And so if anybody's interested in learning more about the Kerouac House, you can talk to me about that. But so what all this means is that I'm bringing 28 plus years of experience to the idea of humor writing. And so a lot of people think that humor is something that you're just born with, it's innate. But I can tell you, as a professional humor writer, and in talking to other professional humor writers, there is a formula. This can be taught, and people may have told you you can't teach humor. You absolutely can. It's a skill like anything else, and it takes time to develop. But if you know the formula, you can start spotting it in other places. And so one of the first rules of humor writing is that humor relies on iceberg theory. And iceberg theory is a concept that Hemingway talked about. It's the idea that of the 20% of an iceberg that we see, 80% of it is supported by, or the rest of it is the 80% that we don't see. We see the 20%, but we bring the rest of that to what we read. That's the 80%. So a great example is the 6-word novel that he supposedly wrote, and it doesn't sound like he actually wrote it, but it's a nice story. But you've probably heard this: for sale, baby shoes, never used. We got cut off. But for sale, baby shoes, never used. So we can see what kind of knowledge we bring to this. Where do we typically see the words for sale? Audience participation. Classifieds, newspaper classifieds, never used. What is that usually associated with when we see that in a newspaper classified? Brand new, something for sale, or we see lightly used, only driven on Sundays, right? Things like that. So we can tell just by words 1 and 2 and 5 and 6, this is a newspaper classified ad. Something is being sold as nearly new or never used. What's for sale? Baby shoes. And from there, we get the idea that, oh, this is kind of a sad story. But we brought all of that knowledge to that story. Without it, it's just 6 random words. But with the knowledge that we bring, it becomes a story. The Washington Post during the 2016 election did that with this tweet. Rafael Ted Cruz accuses his Democratic opponent of changing his name to appeal to voters. Now, the first 3 words is that iceberg. Whenever you see somebody's first and last name with another name in quotes in the middle, we know that means that's a nickname, right? So, you know, Tim Rickey, my friend Tim Rickey, your name is Timothy, right? But we would write that Timothy, Tim, Rickey. Well, that's what they did. And what they're telling us is that Ted's real name is Raphael. And so they kind of gave us a sick burn without actually ever pointing out what he does. That's that iceberg. Excuse me, the major foundation of humor is the idea of lies and surprises. My friend Dick, who I actually stole this presentation from, told me that the whole idea of humor is that we lie to people. We take them down a path. When we start to tell a joke, we take them down a path, and then we quickly divert from where they're going. And it's an unexpected change. That's the surprise. But we do it in a way that it lies to them. So here's an example. Punctuation changes everything. And as a writer and a grammarian, I love punctuation. So I love hearing rules about this. For example, I drank the wine. Change the punctuation. I drank all the punctuation. It changes everything. Another one, if you took all your blood vessels and laid them end to end, you would die. Now, why is that funny? Because when I started that, if you took all your blood vessels and laid them end to end, you thought this is about distance. This is about how many blood vessels I have in my body. This is going to be like it can go from here to Tampa or whatever, but it's not. It's actually something darker. And we all laughed at that, which I appreciate. Thank you. This is my crowd. And my dad is a retired psychology professor who did a lot of humor studies in the 80s. And he actually found that we as a society like darker humor and more morbid humor. So you just kind of proved his point. Another element of humor is incongruity. And so how many dads are in here? So you love a good dad joke, right? And people say, oh, those are terrible puns. It's not a pun. It's a paranomasia. And if you tell people who accuse you of telling puns, you say, no, no, this is a paranomasia. This is more important. It's better because the word is longer. But a paranomasia is basically a pun or a play on words. One of my favorite puns is, what do you call a fish with no eyes? Or another type of incongruity is a zeugma. And this is a real thing. I'm not making this up. This is really a zeugma. It's one word that carries 2 meanings. And that's contained in one of my most favorite ever jokes. A horse walks into a bar and the bartender says, "Hey, buddy, why the long face?" See, not everybody has a sophisticated sense of humor. But I always love that because the first time I ever heard it, it just cracked me up and I thought I was going to pee myself. But just the long face as opposed to being sad. So that's a zeugma. Number 4 is recognition. How many of you had kids who watched Disney cartoons and Disney movies? So you know what this means? Ohana means family. Family means, anyone? No one gets left behind. Anybody know that? No, it actually means having your life choice questions and your flaws pointed out to you. Now, this was a tweet that somebody wrote right before Thanksgiving, and so I think they were dreading their upcoming Thanksgiving visit. Exaggeration. A lot of good humor uses exaggeration. One of these from Mel Brooks. Tragedy is when I get a hangnail. Comedy is when you fall in a ditch and die. Or this is an exercise I like to do with people. I knew this guy whose van was who was so creepy that his van had a basement. Now, this is an exercise I do with everybody. What color is the van? White. Who said that? White, exactly. Windows or no windows? No windows. We all know what the creepy kidnap van looks like, right? That's iceberg theory. We know that a guy who is creepy with a van has a white windowless van. What about the basement? Where is the basement from? What movie? Yes, Silence of the Lambs. So the guy is so creepy that his white windowless van has the Silence of the Lambs basement in it. This is iceberg theory in action, but this is that sense of exaggeration. I mean, clearly vans don't have basements, but that's the exaggeration. Superiority. Now, this is where we get into trouble with humor. The way superiority humor works is you make fun of somebody, but you don't just make fun of a person, you make fun of a group of people. This is why you get called down to HR after you tell a joke. This is the dangerous kinds of humor. This is basically the kind of humor we should not be doing. If you have to tell a joke about others, that's going to get you in trouble. There are a few others we can tell jokes about and it's safe. When it comes to headache relief, you've got options: gel caps, tablets, or simply not dating anyone who uses body spray. But if the rule is if you have to punch down, that means if you are at a certain level and you make fun of somebody who is below you in power, that's bad. That's what gets you in trouble. That's what gets you canceled. But you can certainly punch up at somebody above you in power. And the example I like to give is if at a company, if you own your own company, you go on vacation for 3 weeks and your marketing coordinator spends that 3 weeks setting up for a trade show and you just walk in on the day the show starts and then you make fun of her for working so hard, that's bad. But if you go on that 3-week vacation, show up at the show, and she makes a joke about you being on vacation for that long, that's fine. That's acceptable. Because everybody knows the superior position really isn't hers, but she got to take it. She got to use that humor. Now, the safest kind of superiority humor is actually self-deprecation. That's where you make fun of yourself. Conan O'Brien was great at this. He said, I remember the first time I made people laugh. It was the 3rd year of my show. And he was great at this kind of humor. So basically what I've covered is not really how do you tell jokes, because we can all do that. We all know that. I can tell you the second best way you can ruin a joke is to say, hey, Pat, I got a joke for you, because now I blew the surprise. He knows it's coming. The worst way to do it is to say, hey, Pat, I've got a funny joke for you, because now I've set it up. This isn't going to be just a joke. This is going to be a hysterical joke, and you're going to love this joke. And then it's going to fall flat on his face because you know it's coming. The best kinds of jokes are those jokes where people aren't aware it's coming. You set them up, you think that they're going in a different direction, and they totally surprise you with that humor. And that's where the surprise comes from. And then if you can use incongruity or exaggeration or recognition, that's where it comes from. So these are the kinds of things that I use as a humor writer. And I don't, when I like tonight is column night, I have to write my 459th column tonight. And I don't sit and write, well, I need something with incongruity this time. And now I need a little surprise. And next, next paragraph, I have to use exaggeration. It doesn't work that way. But I know that if I'm using any of these 6 elements as I'm writing, this is the toolbox that I have to draw from. So if I'm working on something and I know that, hey, I need something funny here, I can think about what's the funny thing I can put in. Then I can go back and analyze it and say, oh, that was incongruity. You can watch sitcoms that way, and you can see the incongruity or the exaggeration or the surprise and understand that this is where the humor comes from. The thing that you're going to see the most when you're watching TV is surprise. If you ever want to make people laugh unexpectedly, we all have that little filter in our heads, and I imagine some of us are more mature than me. So that filter in your head that something pops in and you say, I should not say that. That would be inappropriate at this funeral, right? Turn that filter off. Say the thing. And that's going to be the surprise. Other people may be expecting it. And if they were thinking the same thing, you get a laugh that way because of recognition. But just the fact that you said it can be surprising enough, and that's going to make people laugh. And so do the unexpected thing. You can be funny without telling jokes. I actually stopped telling a lot of jokes. I tell funny stories, but they're my stories. I don't repeat jokes that I heard from somebody. But if you can use these 6 elements, you can be a whole lot funnier. So do we have any questions? Yes, Denny.
Eric, how does somebody who is a humor writer go to running an organization like 1 Million Cups, which you're really, really good at?
I'm not just a humor writer. I own a content marketing agency and I do ghost blogging for companies. And so I'm an entrepreneur, and I have been an entrepreneur for about as long as I've been a humor writer.
Hi, thanks for the presentation. I have to do a lot of writing, and for various reasons. And I try to add a little humor to it to keep it, light and lively. But I've learned that what I need to do, if I'm doing that, is to write it and then come back later on in the day or the next day and read it. And more often than not, I reread it and I think, well, that was stupid. So is there any writer's tricks to kind of expedite that process?
Ignore the voice that told you the thing was stupid. And then try to figure out, how can I punch that up? How can I make it funnier? How can I make it more stupid? And if you ever see how a sitcom writer's room works, I would love to do that, because all they do is get paid to sit and make each other laugh. Because they tell a story and there's one script writer who's actually putting everything on the computer, and they do, dialogue, and we need a joke. And so somebody spits out a joke, they kind of giggle at that. Somebody spits out another joke that's a little bit funnier. And so then it's a game of let's try to top each other. And so it's never the first joke that makes it onto the page. It's the 10th or 12th joke. By now they're cracking each other up, they're having a good time, and it's number 12 that finally landed. That's the one that makes it on the page. And so if you watch SNL, if you watch any sitcoms, that's how they all work. The good sitcoms, I can't tell when the joke is coming or what the joke is going to be. The bad sitcoms are the ones that I'm kind of going along with the dialogue in my head, and I spit out the joke and then they tell the same joke. I'm like, this show is not long for this network, because first thought, best thought is never a good idea. But if my first thought was their best thought, they're in trouble.
Yes. I would like to say that my children would have said you left out the obvious one, potty humor. Where does that fall in there?
It really does fall in one of those elements, usually surprise or exaggeration, again, because we're not expecting it. So, if I were to just in the middle of talking, tell a fart joke, that would be funny because we're not expecting it. And it's incongruous, it's out of place. We shouldn't be talking about things like that. And so to me, that's like the best place to tell a joke. So, when you're not supposed to be doing it and nobody's expecting it. So potty humor may be the lowest form of humor, but that's what scores laughs.
Your colleague Dave Barry said he won his Pulitzer Prize because he used the word booger more often than
Exactly.
most columnists. To your point, Calvin. Surprise, now I've analyzed it. So Bill's an occasional celebratory cigar smoker. It's the surprise element. So how are men and cigars similar? So you take them down the primrose path, and the answer is because they both tend to go out when left unattended.
Hold on. Do have a question.
What are some of your favorite sitcoms? I'm just interested.
Okay, and some of them tend to be what are called fish out of water. And as a writer, you can do a lot with that. That's when you put a normal person in a weird situation or a weird person in a normal situation. And so did anybody see Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt on Netflix? One of you, you should, if you've got Netflix, you should go find it. To me, it's the funniest show that has ever been on Netflix. It was written by Tina Fey and Ellie Klemper was Kimmy Schmidt. She was a woman who had been trapped in a bunker as part of a cult for 14 years in Indiana, where I'm from. I didn't know her. And she goes to New York City to be on the Today Show and decides to stay. And so here's this woman who's been like uber sheltered all her life. And now she's in like the biggest cluster truck of a city ever. And how does she navigate? And the stuff that they did in the show and the way they navigated this naive girl through this major city was just, it was 3 seasons of laughs. So that became one of my favorites. I also liked 30 Rock for the same reason. It was also Tina Fey. Letterkenny, if anybody's got Hulu. Talk about potty humor. They are able to do highbrow things with lowbrow topics on Letterkenny. And if you have Hulu, you can see that. Letterkenny, it's one word. It's Canadian. It's a great show. Those are my 3 favorites.
Eric, question for you. What sitcoms or comedy shows compared to MASH in terms of quality of humor?
MASH was definitely darker humor. And one of the things that they did was they used a recorded laugh track. I referred to my father earlier. Another study that he did back in the 80s was he found that we are more likely to laugh at something if there are people to laugh with us. And sitcom producers figured that out a long time ago. And so they had recorded laugh tracks. And if you listen very closely, you'd notice that like on MASH, they use the same laugh track that they used on the Archie cartoon show back in the like late 60s, early 70s. Same track. And a lot of sitcoms use that. They knew that if an audience were laughing, the people would think it's funny. But I've heard from other people who have since watched MASH without the laugh track on. You can get the DVD and turn off the laugh track. It's a lot less funny. It's funny, but the humor is dark, and that's what makes it funny. But they needed the laugh track for an assist.
Hold on, Denny. Oh, Denny, I'll be right there.
Number 2 here. So how much do you weight do you place on delivery? Because like Tim Allen, I think is hilarious in everything he's ever done. But if you're writing it, you don't get that delivery that
Exactly.
somebody can give you.
And to me, that's the difference between humor and comedy. Humor is read, comedy is delivered. And so that's important. If you're somebody like Tim Allen or John Mulaney or any of these comics, these stand-up comics, it is their delivery that really adds to the humor, because when you put the joke on the page, it's not that funny. It needs the delivery. And that's got to be at least half of their success.
Going to your psychological background, why is it that all men feel that the Three Stooges are absolutely wonderful and women think that they're stupid?
Women are more mature. I really do think that's part of it is as guys, we do have that innate boy humor, that potty humor, and violence can be funny. This is another thing that one of my dad's studies showed. He showed single panel cartoons, and that's how he got people to rate them. Which of these 3 is the funniest, which is second. And so he had Dennis the Menace, He had The Far Side, and he had selections from a book called Totally Tasteless Cartoons. And one of the ones I remember, it was a single panel, but it was split into two. This guy is standing up on a tall building and the crowd below is yelling, jump, jump. And he jumps, and then they all hold up judges' scorecards and rate him. Right, that's gross, isn't it? But we all laughed at that, so thank you. But that was always the funniest one out of the three that he always showed. Well, the Three Stooges kind of works on that. I mean, you know, poking somebody in the eye is not pleasant, but we all laugh when Curly gets poked. We laugh at that, and I don't know why women don't laugh at that other than maturity. So
Eric, I think that's it. Thank you so much for being here.
all right, thank you.
Thanks very much, Eric. We enjoyed your talk and got a little parting gift for you here. Just pull it from the bottom because the bottom of the bag might come loose.
All right, appreciate it. Thank you.
All right, thanks. Let's hear it again for Eric Deckers. Thank you. And now Jenny Career, ready for
We are ready.
who's going to get the chance?
About $1,350, so the winner's gonna get $675. That's not bad.
And that deck is getting smaller every week. Been shuffled? I'll just give it a quick. Got all of them in there, right?
Yep.
Okay. All right. Check your tickets. The lucky winner is 040214. 214. Nobody?
John is.
You got it, John? Okay, John. You keep coming up, you're gonna have to pull that queen out of there one of these days.
So, you know, John and Rich always buy $20 worth, which is really commendable for both of them.
Yeah, and that's the fun of this. Okay, okay.
Oh, he's
Oh,
close.
the king of spades, one off. You get your money back.
Thank you, everybody.
All right, thank you. Oh, yeah, thanks, Danny. All right. Well, we're going to get everybody back to work on time today. Remember, we are a business club. Always do business with Rotarians. Now, if you will please turn your cell phones back on and join me in the four-way test. Of the things we think, say, or do, is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendships? Will it be beneficial to all concerned? Our meeting is adjourned.